guys, and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is, of course, Cameron, and welcome back today to another video. It is Monday. Now, we were meant to be doing a live stream today, so I just want to start by apologising for the fact that there is no live stream. Ideally, we would have had a live stream, would have been getting all of you guys interacting with, obviously, the topics that we're going to talk about today. However, we had a couple of issues with the Wi-Fi here in my house, and I believe we've got an engineer due to come out within the next hour to have a look at it. So I didn't want to start up a live stream, get everything ready, be midway through a conversation, and then the whole live stream sort of drop because the engineer's messing about with the Wi-Fi, because our Wi-Fi's been really, really poor recently. I also want to apologise for the fact there was no video on Friday, as I'm sure some of you know. I spent the weekend over in London with my cousin celebrating my 21st birthday. I had various things going on, so I was unable to make a video on Friday, so I do apologise about that. I hope you all enjoyed my video about VAR on Wednesday. Obviously, we talked about VAR, we talked about the level of officiating in the Premier League, and we're actually here to talk about something else in today's video, of course. Like I said, ideally it would have been a live stream. We'll be back live streaming on Wednesday, and then, of course, we'll have all the pre-game content and going into the Norwich game on Thursday, and obviously with the press conference reaction on Friday as well. But anyway, something's popped up today that I thought was really, really interesting and definitely worth talking about, certainly from an Everton point of view. So, former Everton director of football, so the man who Marcel Brands took over, former Everton director of football, Steve Walsh, who is actually employed as director of football whilst Ronald Koeman was the manager at the football club, has come out and he said some quite interesting things about Everton's transfer strategies, and he's named a couple of players that he believes Everton were quite close to getting, and he believes in his own words that he had deals done and dusted for, but the football club wouldn't back him. Now, before we go into talking about some of the players that, you know, Steve Walsh brought in as Everton director of football, and some of the players that he brought in for quite a lot of money that weren't really successful at Everton, we'll let him, you know, we'll hear what he has to say, and we'll read the quote out as to what he has directly told The Athletic today. So we know this is solid. It's coming from a really, really good source in The Athletic. So he has come out and said, while I was at Everton, I offered them Andrew Robinson, otherwise known as Andy Robinson, who obviously now plays for Liverpool, the left back, and Harry Maguire deals when they were at Hull, and it was worth 20 million for the pair, but Everton wouldn't take them. I had the deal done for Johnny Evans before he came to Leicester, but again they wouldn't take him. Erling Haaland, who obviously is the young striker currently playing for Salzburg in the Austrian League, absolutely turning it up there, absolutely turning it up in the Champions League as well. He scored a ridiculous amount of goals already, absolutely fantastic young striker. So he says, Erling Haaland, the striker with Salzburg, I had him and his dad at the club with a deal done for £3.4 million or €4 million, and the club wouldn't back me. So basically, Steve Walsh is now coming out and saying that he had deals for Andy Robinson, Harry Maguire and Erling Haaland done and dusted, basically only needed the funds from the football club for a combined fee of under £25 million for those three players. Now, obviously, it's quite significant that Steve Walsh is now coming out and saying this, obviously, given the recent success of, you know, all three of those players, Harry Maguire being the most expensive defender in history, in football history, going to Manchester United for 80 million. I'd think it'd be silly to say he wouldn't improve our defence. I don't particularly think he's done fantastically since he's been at Manchester United, but I think he's a decent player who would improve our defence. Andy Robinson, who obviously we know has gone to Liverpool and won a Champions League, is a really, really good left-back. Now, I'm not too worried about that one, obviously, because we brought Luca Dean in, who I think is, you know, equally as good, if not better, in my opinion. But anyway, that's not part of the discussion. But obviously, Erling Haaland being one that really, really pricks up to the ears. The actual article was surrounding this player, and the actual article was stating that, you know, he could have been turning it up for Everton in the Premier League if we would have backed Steve Walsh. Now, I think there's a lot of things to take out of this article, and there's a lot of things to ignore from a man, you know, that ultimately failed in his job in as to what Steve Walsh done. Now, it's interesting to say that the club wouldn't back him for £25 million to bring in three players that I assume, well, I know the club would have known that there was a lot of potential for. Certainly the likes of Haaland, who would have been ripping it up in the academy levels for Salzburg. And also Harry Maguire, who even at that time we knew was performing well for Hull, as well as Andy Robinson, who were playing well at that point, at a similar point that Michael Keane was playing well for Burnley as well. So obviously it's really, really interesting that he's coming out and he's saying the club wouldn't back him for a fee worth under £4 million for a good young prospect striker, which is quite interesting considering the club backed him for a fee of £5 million for a striker in Sandro Ramirez, who come in from Barcelona, the Spanish League, and done absolutely nothing at his time at Everton Football Club, and is still yet to have done anything for Everton Football Club to this day. Really interesting considering a club backed Steve Walsh on transfers like Yannick Bolasie for over £30 million, who ultimately wasn't a success at Everton Football Club. The likes of Davy Klassen for £20 odd million, who wasn't a success at Everton Football Club. And various other players that Steve Walsh brought in under his tenure with Ronald Koeman that just didn't succeed at Everton Football Club because they were not good enough and they did not have the mentality of this football club, and they didn't fit into our system. At the end of the day, Davy Klassen is a good player. Yannick Bolasie in his own right was a good player, but they did not fit in to the structure of our football club whatsoever, and that is why ultimately they didn't succeed. Now, I'm not going to go into talking about Gylfi Sigurdsson, who people have picked out as a Steve Walsh signing, or Jordan Pickford and Michael Keane, some people have picked out as well. I'm not going to go into talking about them because they're still couldn't Everton players, so I think it'd be unfair to go in and talk about them in a negative light, when talking about Steve Walsh, because they've not really done anything wrong, and obviously they are still under contract at the football club, and they're still, I'd like to say relatively playing well. Obviously we're not playing well as a team at the minute, and we haven't been good enough by far this season, and Gylfi Sigurdsson is part of that. Obviously Michael Keane hasn't been playing well either, but at the back end of last season I think they all played their part in what was a solid end of the season. So I don't really want to go too much into them because they couldn't Everton players, and I don't think it'd be fair to do that. But certainly some of the players that Steve Walsh brought in during his tenure as director of football at Everton Football Club weren't anything to look at and be massively amazed at and be massively excited about, especially the likes of Ashley Williams, especially the likes of Yannick Bolasie, and especially the likes of Davy Klassen, who ultimately all three of those players failed at the football club. Now they'd obviously moved on, and it's interesting reading articles like this of Steve Walsh now coming out and saying, well, actually I had Harry Maguire, who's gone on to be the most expensive defender in the world. I had Andy Robinson, who's gone on to be a Champions League winner. I had Haaland, who's going on to scoring hat-tricks near enough every week. He's an absolutely fantastic young player. I had Johnny Evans before he went to Leicester as well. It's really, really interesting to see that. I think this article is basically just Steve Walsh trying to come out and clear his own back. Obviously he's struggling to get employment wherever he is. Obviously he wants to get back into the director of football route or the chief scout route in some other football club, and the failure at Everton is having a real bad effect on him and on his ability to get jobs. So I think he's just trying to come out and clear his back and saying, well, Everton had the opportunity to sign these players and turn them down and wouldn't back me. Now, like I said, considering the amount of money we spent under Steve Walsh and under Ronald Koeman, hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds, I find it really difficult to believe that Everton wouldn't back him for a signing of a young striker worth under £5 million, unless they'd said to Steve Walsh, listen, you failed us with Sandro Ramirez, you failed us with this player, you failed us with that player, so we're not backing you for another risk, because for all we know we could bring in this player who could do absolutely nothing for us and again be another failed signing. That's the only way as I can see this story being anywhere near the truth. The Andy Robinson and Harry Maguire ones obviously is also an interesting one, £20 million for the pair of them. Everton wouldn't fund it. I can only think that Everton were looking at the previous signing that Steve Walsh had made and thought, well, we spent 40 odd million, we spent 30 odd million on Bolasie, we spent 25 odd million on Klassen, and neither of those players have lit the league up, so why should we give you another 20 million to pursue these players? And I think the ultimate sort of conclusion that I've come to, and I thought is the most realistic, is that when Steve Walsh has been picking these players and when Steve Walsh has had these deals on the table, I assume it was towards the back end of his time at Everton Football Club, and I assume it was towards the point where the board had already made the decision to get rid of Steve Walsh and bring in Marcel Brands to be the director of football going forward. So obviously they're not going to give him £25-30 million to spend on new players if their long-term plan is for the end of the season for him to leave the football club, as well as Ronald Koeman. And if I remember rightly, I don't think it was actually ever announced by the club that Steve Walsh left, which I thought was really strange at the time, but you forget about it and you don't think anything else of, do you? When you're interested in what's going to happen in the future. But obviously it was announced that Ronald Koeman had left, it had announced that he'd been sacked, but I don't think it was ever announced that Steve Walsh had been left. It had just come from somebody within the background of the club that said, oh yeah, Steve Walsh has gone, and then it hit the mainstream media, and then that's how we all found out about it. So obviously that's really interesting, but that's the only way I can see what Steve Walsh is saying is to be of any truth, is that this situation has happened right at the end of his Everton, career right at the end of his time at Everton Football Club, and he's come to Everton with these 3 players and have said, listen, I've got a deal on the cards for, you know, 2 of Hull's good young players, and we've just not even entertained it because we knew that he was going to be out the door come the end of the season, and we were going to bring somebody fresh in, somebody else in that could clearly do a better job than Steve Walsh can because of his previous signings that ultimately failed at the football club. But obviously it is really, really interesting to see. It's really, really interesting to read. It was a good old reading work this morning. It picked my ears up as soon as I heard Haaland's name and Everton in the same title. I thought, surely this isn't linking him with us now, because, you know, he's being linked with Manchester United, he's being linked with Barcelona, and he's being linked with everyone. So what's the historical link with Everton now? Is this going to be another one of them that we could have signed or we should have signed? And lo and behold, it was. Apparently him and his dad had agreed to come to the club for under £4 million, and, you know, Everton wouldn't back the money. Similar situation with Harry Maguire and Andy Robinson as well. Not too really fussed about the Johnny Evans deal. I'd have took Johnny Evans in present time, considering how light we are with centre halves, but you know, it's not as significant as the world's most expensive defender, a Champions League winner, or a striker that's being touted to be one of, you know, the best young players in world football. So obviously that's really, really interesting to read, really, really interesting to hear. A lot of people on Twitter, you know, going against Steve Walsh and not really going along the route that I think he would have wanted to go at, as to blaming the club as to why this didn't happen, and aiming our, you know, negative thoughts at the club as to why we haven't brought these players in, more aiming the thoughts at Steve Walsh as to why, if he had those 3 players that obviously had a lot of quality at the time and had a lot of potential, that have fulfilled that potential to a certain extent, why he went for players that ultimately didn't work and ultimately failed at the football club. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on that one in the comments section down below. Moving on, Everton women were successful at Anfield a couple of days ago, beating Liverpool by 1-2. Women's captain Lucy Graham got the ultimate winner in yesterday's women's Merseyside derby in front of 25,000 fans at Anfield. Everton women were victorious, and I must say it's absolutely massive congratulations to the Everton women on their win at Anfield, something that the males haven't been able to do in my lifetime. A really, really good, strong, gritty performance by the women, and I've seen some of the defensive clips towards the end of the game, obviously when we were 1-0 up and when we were defending, and some of the defending absolutely fantastic. So really, really good to see, really positive obviously to see, a really, really big motivation and a really, really big well done to the Everton women. Fantastic to see, and like I said, they're becoming a real good role model towards, you know, young girls who are wanting to play football. I've got a little cousin who plays football every single week. She's obsessed with football, so obviously really, really good role models towards those young girls that are wanting to get into the game, and that may have felt like there was a stereotype about the game just being for men. It's absolutely not whatsoever. You've seen the Everton women go out there and show more guts and show more bottle than the Everton men's team have done at Anfield in like I said, in my lifetime. So big congratulations to the Everton women. Absolutely fantastic result. It wasn't about internationals this week, was it? It was about Everton women going there and getting the win against those lot at Anfield, and they certainly done that. Really, really good performance. Fantastic goal as well, like I said, by Lucy Graham, captain and match winner, and really, really nice to see the atmosphere and the morality within the dressing room as well is fantastic. So big congratulations to the Everton women on their win at Anfield. So I just want to do a little bit of an international roundup before we go. As I'm sure some of you know, I went to see England at Wembley on Thursday, won 7-0. I believe the final score was. In the end, Jordan Pickford played in that game, made a couple of okay saves, didn't have to do an awful lot. There wasn't a lot of attacking presence by Montenegro, but he made a couple of decent saves, one in particular from a header, really, really good one. Didn't play in the fixture against Kosovo yesterday. I believe Nick Pope played in that game. So Jordan Pickford doing what he needs to do for England, keeping a clean sheet in the Euro qualifier. Gylfi Sigurdsson scored the winning goal for Iceland as well yesterday, and Alex Iwobi netted for Nigeria. So a positive international break for Everton, for the Everton players, of course. A positive break for the players that will now return to Finch Farm and obviously get their heads down ahead of our game against Norwich at the weekend. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button. It means a massive amount to me. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe as well. Like I said, once again, big apologies that there's no live stream today. I do apologise that there wasn't any content on Friday. We'll be back with the live streams on Wednesday as per normal. Might have a little video from Tony as well. If you remember Tony, he done the match reaction to the derby when I'd lost my voice a couple of months back. So we might have a reaction from him, or we might have a little video from him over the next couple of days. But we'll definitely be live on Wednesday night, so look forward to that one. And then, of course, all the pre-game stuff on Thursday and Friday before we face Norwich in the Premier League on Saturday. So a big game for Everton. Big thanks for watching. Please do hit that like button if you have enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. It's at MightyBluesYT down below there, as you can see. Once again, big thanks to everybody for watching. Please leave a like if you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you soon.